back to Byte Happens, the podcast where we explore big ideas in tech in a way that connects with everyone. I'm your host, Flavia Taborga, and we're kicking off season 2 with a topic that is reshaping software development as we know it. Over the last few years, we've seen AI move from being a productivity enhancer to something much more powerful. Today, I'm joined by Hung Nguyen, a leader deeply focused on software quality who is constantly innovating in the testing space in this new AI era. Hung, welcome to Byte
Oh,
Happens.
thank you, Flavia.
Great. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me. And very excited to share my thoughts with the listeners and you.
Thank you. Thank you, Han. I'm pretty sure we're going to learn a lot. Before we dive into AI and quality, I'd love to give our audience some context about your journey. Can you give us an overview of your background? Where did you get into software and what are you currently working on?
All right. I could say, like, from a personal background, that I'm a product of war, a refugee, an immigrant, and now probably part of the melting pot. And that is back in the 70s, and I was growing up during the Vietnam War. My background, I'm actually come from Vietnam. I was born there, and when the war ended in '75, I lived in Vietnam for a few years, and then I left as a refugee. As you often hear, the boat people, and I'm one of those boat people. And I got to the States in the early '80s, and went back to school and ended up studying quality engineering. At the time, and it was a lot more focusing on hardware, not software. And so I did engineering school for quality engineering with minor in computer science. And then I thought that at the time, software quality engineering, it's kind of like green field. It's very, very new. So I decided that perhaps with my background and my interest, this could be the field that I can just learn, do, and perhaps thrive in this new field. So that's how I switched into software engineering, specifically in testing and test automation. And in early '90, I co-authored a book with a couple of folks. Kem Kainer, who's a very well-known testing authority, and he was a professor at Florida Institute of Technology. And Jack Falk is another friend of mine who was my colleague at Electronic Arts. So we ended up having this bestseller in the classic software testing book. And after that, I wrote a few more books on testing on the web and test automation and so on and so forth. So that's back in the '90s. But I ended up in Silicon Valley in the '80s, and I was lucky enough that part of being in Silicon Valley, I got an opportunity to work with a number of, like, at the time was a startup company. For example, one of those Electronic Arts, which I was like they within a group of about 30 first employees there, working with the team, and Trip Hawkins at the time was the CEO. Another example that I was lucky enough to be working with the team that built this mobile device called the Palm Computing, this is before we have a mobile phone. We had this personal
Wow.
information management system on the device. And so that's, and then I worked for a number of other software startup companies. And so back in the days, and then in around mid '90s or so, I had an opportunity. So I decided to just like build a company around software testing, and so we started an outfit in Silicon Valley and providing software test engineering services for kind of if you're driving up and down 101, Adobe's, Oracle's, Apple, Keras, and so on. I mean, and this is way before Google and Facebook and
Right.
everything else. That was the Yahoo time and all of that. Then we could hit a snag with the dot-com demise. So we pretty much, lost everything. And so I just didn't really know what I wanted to do then. And then so I came back and visited, my home country and reconciled with the country and looked at the young generation. And I thought that this is a great generation and they, has nothing to do with the war. And this is opportunity for me to just invest in the country and also enjoying the talents in Vietnam. So I decided to just build, a development team there just to build our products. That was around early 2000, and we ended up, having a team there. So we about 3 years ago. Before I sold the company, we were almost 1,000 employees with across,
Hmm.
Vietnam and US and the UK and so on and so forth. But I ended up I sold the company to another public software testing company in Japan on a Tokyo Stock Exchange called Digital Heart. And so now where I am is I feel like lucky enough that I'm part of this AI generation and
Yeah.
transformation. So I built a couple of companies and I do advisories. But the things I work now is around AI and how it's affects the way we build software and the way we test software, and I do a lot of that from the lab experimental standpoint, as well as building, training platforms and course material just to help teach people who want to get into the field, particularly in testing in this AI uh, era, as well as people who need to upskill into doing testing and QA in the AI era. And that's kind of how I spend my time nowadays. It's around building and learning and advisories to a number of startup companies. Yeah.
Got it. That's such an inspiring journey, Hung. So when we talk about today, and you talk about working with AI nowadays, it's very apparent that AI is able to reduce the cost and time
Hmm.
it takes to generate code.
Hmm.
Um, but if we zoom out a bit, can you tell us more about the overall effect of AI on the broader economics of building software?
Yeah, I think that we can see a lot now that certainly that it helps lower the cost of writing code, right? Because AI can generate code a lot faster, right? So you can be on cursors and give it instructions, and then it's just writing code. So the developers now just ending up just reviewing the code or giving good prompts and so on and so forth. So you can ship faster, you can deliver faster, but that doesn't mean that you can reduce the cost of errors, right? So the cost of errors is there, and the needs of testing now faster is also
Hmm.
there, and a small errors in the code can propagate a lot, faster, right? And that is a challenge. And then you also have like because of the AI technology, you have a new um, group of startups or entrepreneurs. You can go from you know a solo developers, like an indie hacker, or a very small team, and you can build big business. Just um, embracing and take advantage of AI. But also, you still have existing huge enterprises where also wanted to apply, and take advantage of AI. But there's a lot of trust issues, untrusting issues,
Right.
and regulations issues and compliance issue that they have to deal with. So that's a kind of I'm seeing the dynamic of how AI changes the economics of software today. Um, yeah, so
Right.
and with the respect of testing, I'm still learning. I'm still into figuring out how we're gonna go from here.
Right. And this cost of failure, it has a major impact on businesses, right?
Yes,
So we're talking about data leaks, outages.
yes.
And do you think most organizations fully appreciate the scale of this risk, or do you see the industry going to try to optimize everything just for the sake of speed?
Well, I don't. I think that I think speed is we want speed because economically, if you are faster and you can do things cheaper, then you can compete, you can dominate, you can capture market share. I think everybody goes for that. So that's just natural. But also at the end of the day, you also have like who pays for your software, right? They still want quality in terms of it works the way that I expect it to work. Because they're paying to that. Although it's interesting that a lot of things are free,
Yeah.
and it's like you have like foundation LLM companies investing billions and billions of dollars and giving these things out for free just to capture market share. So that is happening as well. But I think that at the end of the day, the qualities of the software, is important, and also like trusting it, whether you're going to lose your data, you lose your privacies in terms of using the software, you know. Like recently, you hear a lot about open claw and the security issues and all of that, but at the same time, it's a great tool that I'm actually exploring, but I'm make sure that it's contained into my virtual machine and my Docker, and I'm exploring it, and it's doing great things. But at the same time,
Right.
you need to understand the security risks and all the issues, and that can be from the end user standpoint, that could be very frightening in terms of how they can be exposed with not only the functionality failures, but also security risks that introduced by these AI agents or AI software.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, with that in mind, how should teams using AI protect themselves? Are there any safety nets needed to ensure that, moving fast does not come at the expense of long-term stability or security?
Yes, I think that there are ways and many ways, and there also are technologies to just help evaluating your softwares, your AI powered applications. It's testing for your security risks. There's a lot of tools out there available to do that, and have to put in the guardrails of what the AI is responding. So just remember that in back in my early days, the way that we think about software testing and software quality is like we are the information service function. Okay. And
Right.
what that means is we help our development team, we help our developers, okay, to fix problems, bugs in the software. Some of those are in the code, but some of those are also like exposed through for example the GUI, the interface, the expectation of user, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of we are that function. And I think that software testing and test automation, all of that today, it's still the same function, but the work is changing, because now we are not really helping our developers in kind of like sweeping the bugs out of the product, but also we're looking for AI generated errors, because
Yeah.
AI is writes a lot of these codes. So we have like, okay, what can go wrong with these agents that they make mistakes, right? And then we also have traditional errors coming from our developers. So it's a very challenging environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. I can imagine. And you talked about trust. From the outside looking in, it seems like the entire development cycle is flipping. It used to be that writing code was the bottleneck, but now with AI generating code and even the test for that code almost instantly, it feels like the friction has completely shifted. Now, trusting the code may be the bottleneck. So, in situations where AI is generating both the implementation and the tests verifying
Yeah.
it, what does confidence mean?
Well, the confidence means that it would still from the functionality standpoint, it's still like, does it do what you expect it to do for you? Okay, that's one dimension. Does it give you the answer, okay, that you can trust? Okay. And when you test that, how do you validate that? You'll make sure that it doesn't hallucinate, it doesn't make up things,
Right.
uh, does it expose the user, or even your own application with, security risks, because you are liable for your users, data,
Right.
so both sides of the coins. So I think that those are the areas that I think will be the bottlenecks. Although there's a lot of approaches, there's a lot of tools, and there are things that coming out every day. But I think that the key issues now is the team was to rethink about exploration or exploratory testing. You have to think about how we verify the software the old way, but also how do we evaluate the outputs from the accuracy, the right context, and it's the security risks, if any. So that those are the
Right.
a lot just to manage, and then the coach keep it coming out and coming out at the
Yeah.
speed of
Yeah.
light. Yeah. Mm.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Yeah, and I can imagine there's the risk of also not only mistakes but the shared blind spots that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So absolutely. So I think that looking for blind spots are, and do we have guardrails, okay, to protect the applications and protect the AI from us from AI of giving us bad results, or biased
Yeah.
outputs, and so on and so forth, right? So those are the things that we have to do to help us, quote unquote, trust the software and help the user trust the software. So now from the development standpoint, from the business standpoint, we still worry about, do we trust the code that's being
Yeah.
generated, and from the end user standpoint, will they trust the outputs of the
The
software of the
product.
LLM? Yeah, yeah,
Right. Yeah, it's a whole new challenge.
yep.
Looking at your approach to building software, one thing that stands out is this idea of being AI native yet human first when it comes to quality.
Mhm.
Can you break this down for our audience, and how does this look like across roles like QA, developers?
Yeah. So you hear a lot of people saying AI first and AI power and human led and so on and so forth. But to me, what it really means is that we have to embrace, AI. We have to take advantage of it, and we have to learn fast to figure out how we can take advantage of this technology, right? That's a given. Instead of worrying about whether it's going to be job displacement or whether our job's going to be there,
Right.
and so on. It what happened. Like, so I think this is what I meant by AI first. We need to embrace. So we need to learn technologies. We have to think critically to understand it and apply the human element into that. And then human led is just basically why AI does a lot of things for us, which is what it's supposed to be doing. We still need to um, define clearly what is it that we wanted to generate, what is it we want these agents, to do, and how do we make sure that the end product generated by us and the agents, okay, would meet the user expectations and would give us and the user the trust so that we can quote unquote ship the product responsibly, right? So that's just basically, I think, I really think that human should be in control, but should embrace and should learn and should practice and should use this AI in our world of building software today. So that's essentially, to me, that's what it really means. Okay, it's just like embrace it, but it, yeah, it's kind of interesting because if you use it more and more, and again, you realize that different agents, different LLM would have different skill sets. Depends on
Right.
what you do. So if you look, if you can correlate it to humans, you have a doctor, musicians, and architects, and each have a different skill sets. So this agent needs to be, trained. This LLM needs to be trained to make
Exactly.
sure that they are specialized in specific, domain, right? So I think that's kind of what I think about. You need to know, like, okay, which LLM should I use just for this kind of work that I am doing? You know, what
Right.
how do I create agents and can do things that could get me the result that I want to? That's kind of where the human critical thinking, comes in, understanding that AI has all of these capabilities and we should use them, right? Uh, but then we define what needs to be done.
Got
One
it.
of the companies that I'm advising, it's called Agile AI, and they're doing this is very interesting where people when people was focusing on automate and autonomous um, agents and so on and so forth. Okay, they look at things from the enterprise standpoint, and they think about, like, how do we make sure that we build the software would be secure, right? And how do we do that from a more disciplined SDLC practice, right? So what they do is they just basically text requirements and specs and fixment and refinement of test cases or whatever you have it, okay, and then you have a set of source of truth, right? And then you can actually compare, with the code in GitHub, and you can find the blind spots, and you can find whether
Hmm.
we missed, any tests or the areas of, security risk exposure and so on and so forth. So that's just one example of, addressing, this AI native, but human blessed type of methodologies, and then other companies focusing more on agentic level of uh, um, uh, AI application, to their workflow. Right, but that is, I
Right.
hope that would give you um, some of my explanation about how I think of that topic.
Right, right. That although AI can be autonomous, human judgment is still critical.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah,
getting. Um,
yep,
got it. And when we talk about the testing space,
mhm,
there's autonomous agents operating
yeah,
inside these pipelines, but there's also AI as a co-pilot
right.
and augmenting the testing. Is it important to make this distinction between one another?
Yes, yeah, I think it is important because, like, you have traditional automated testing methodologies with frameworks like Selenium and Playwright and Cypress and so on and so forth, right? So um, I think those way of doing test automation will continue to exist in our practice, but a lot of that can be uh, uh, taking advantage of AI. So AI assisted,
Mhm.
so AI can do a lot of co-piloting, having helping you write code the same way that you build software, application. It would help you with in doing something called self healing, where you can fix broken locators and so on and so forth. So that co-pilot a co-pilot model will continue to be part of the practice. But also on the flip side is the autonomous, pure, agentic, applications of test automation. And that is these agents can natively, for example, using computer use, and you can just prompts, and it would go after your applications, and perhaps if you give it some standards of what to look for in terms of accessibility or in terms of securities, right? And through these prompts, these agents will go out there and hitting your application. So those are the two paths that we are gonna see, and it's happening now already. But the so the autonomous is very intriguing, and it's changing, and it's improving fast. But I think at the same time, on the traditional uh, testing framework model with AI co-piloting, I think it's more structural, more well architected. So I think those are the two different approaches. At least there's other alternative as well. But I think it is essential to understand that, and just keep up with what the changes in those areas. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And in these scenarios, and as companies rely more on AI, who's ultimately accountable for the decisions AI makes, and how do we make sure there's a clear record of what happened, what AI did, and where does human oversight comes
Yeah.
in?
I think that haven't said and learn all the things about how AI impacts our work and how we build software. That's very interesting, right? Because like now everybody tests, developers test, a lot. And this is before AI, where we have like, I'm sorry, before AI, we have, agile, and, we have test first, and, unit testing is happening. And then, we have the developers and QA testing, at the API level, and then the QA people testing at the end-to-end GUI level, and so on. So that's happening, with AI, developers can do a lot more testing as well, but then, that's still the QA side to do a lot more of the end-to-end testing. And I think that the quality is still has to be owned, first by the business people, but then at the execution layer, it's still, by the team, right? Because like, we have to have, AI's lead or expert as part of the team to understand, AI and LLM specific and data specific errors, and we have developers, and we have, uh, testing QA people, and we have products management. I think that team has to continue owning the quality of the product, so that we can quote unquote ship responsibly. It's not like QA or testing people owns that quality. So the team will continue owning that the quality of the software. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. That's very interesting. And talking about QAs, as AI becomes more embedded in this software development
Yeah.
cycle, how do you see the role of QAs evolving?
So I think that because I'm quality engineering trained, so even the word QA is kind of, we use it a lot in the wrong context, right? Because QA is quality assurance, right? And we at quality engineering and testing, we test software. We are service provider. Okay, we providing these services to our team, and specifically our product development and developers. This service, we're not assure anything. We can't assure quality. As I just said earlier, the quality owned by the team. So really, the QA is the team responsibility. Okay, so what we are doing is this, like, if you look at we do end-to-end testing, we do exploratory testing, right? That's part of looking for bugs, and we have to do evaluation. So now we have exploratory testing, and we do evaluation on the AI outputs. Okay, that's continue to happen. And then in automations, whether you do the AI assisted co-piloting model, or you do autonomous testing, that's a mixture of exploration, let's call it algorithmic exploration, okay, because it's using machine cycle to do that, right, and use AI to do that. Okay, and so that's do some of that exploration, but a lot of that is really what I call, in the traditional quality engineering field, I call it quality control, right? Because it does a lot of regression testing. So I know what's supposed to be doing. So you keep on rerunning the old test, in an automatic fashion, right? So that's a QC level of testing, and then you have the team who owning the outcome and the result of that could make a decision on QA. But I think that ultimately the CEO decide whether you can ship the product as the way it is now, knowing the risk that we have in the product. That's would be the ultimate quality owner of the company. I think yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. And as you said earlier, now the teams are not only testing for human mistakes, but they also need to catch mistakes introduced, missed, or even reinforced by AI. So it kind of forces the teams to shift the mindset and learn a new skill, or keep learning, as you were saying. Do you have any skills that you think it might be or may become more and more important today as we advance in this AI era?
Yeah, I think that fundamental skills like I think prompt engineering, context engineering, That's just the basics that we have to know. Okay. And then understanding, especially for, the testing people who new or need to upskill, we need to learn about how agentic, AI works, how agents can do the job and how they can make mistakes. Okay. So that we have to learn. And then we also have to, learn more about how our developers, build software. How the code is generated by AI, and how our developers giving instruction and evaluating the outputs. Because eventually, we are the ones who also need to, do the testing and the evaluating when the code delivered to the testing team, right? So you need
Right.
to understand a lot of that. So just a traditional black box, which is testing, it wouldn't work. You need to dig down deeper to the layer of understanding how AI works, right?
Right.
How agents work, how the code is being generated, right? Just to give you an example of, bug reporting. We used to just like write bug reporting, and we make sure that we just do it methodically, and we provide information to the developers, and then the developer can debug it. But think about it for a second. Nowadays, if you write a good bug report, the developer is just going to feed the same thing to AI. Say like, hey, take a look at this and go find the problem and tell me what you find and how you fix it, right? So
Right.
so you're writing bug report now more for AI, although with the developers is a supervisor of the agents, but that's kind of how it works now.
Got it. And how do you think it would look like in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think that in 3 to 5 years, you can see it's happening now already. That the human exploratory testing, and a lot of people call that manual testing. um, the need of that, it would never go away, by the way, but it would be declining in terms of the work that you do, like you manually writing test cases, and you writing boilerplate, automated test scripts, and all of that, that I think will be declining. Although you still need them, but a lot of that can be done, by AI, right? So you would be, the supervisor and the instructor, the evaluator
Right.
of this outcome, but you don't do that, manually, right? So what does that mean? That means you have to shift, the skill sets, and shift the learning, okay, to a different role. So I think that in it's happening now, but it's becoming more apparent, and that is semi-autonomous and autonomous regression system will become basically the standard, you know of the industry. And I think that's it's also the trend, and it's happening, and AI can also analyze the changes of the code, can analyze, think about it like you can feed your bug database to AI, right? So it knows the common bugs that you have in your software, you know. And I just had like the recent podcast with this. I have something called the daily AI in QA podcast. That is my AI clone is doing the work, and I create the content. And one of the finding from these folks is very interesting. That you if you have your test cases, you have your test suites, okay. Literally, if you feed to AI, right? Not even it's going to help you, do the test and everything. It actually can reverse engineer and can build the products based on the test
Wow.
suites you provide, and so that kind of like brings up the analysis component of AI will be playing a big part of how we build and uh, test software. So quality engineering in my uh, observation is becoming more like a continuous intelligence layer. It's not we are not a gatekeeper at end of sprint, anymore. We're not end of sprint gate anymore. We more like um, looking at, how do we continuously, uh, adding intelligence to our, software development process, with, human-led, but taking advantage of AI technology and, keep building, and shipping, better software. So cross-functional, ownership, as I mentioned earlier, and I think that with a strong software company, that's already happened before AI, and that is the whole team, QA, dev, leadership, will share quality metrics, will own quality, and that I will see that it will continue to happen, right? But having said that, I still don't really know exactly how we land in terms of how we will be testing, AI software, right? Because we're still developing, we're still learning, and things accelerating very fast, So, but I think that those trends you will see, it will happen. Yeah.
Yes, it's evolving rapidly, so it's hard to
Yep.
predict
Yep.
how I will actually look like. So
Yep.
yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yep.
And before we wrap up,
Mhm.
I always like to leave our audience with something actionable.
Yep.
So if you had to give one piece of advice about working safely and intelligently with AI, what would it be?
Well, I think that, three things. You need to upskill fast. Okay. You need to think critically, and you need to ship responsibility. You ship responsibly. Okay. So what does that mean? Okay. Learn fast, think fast, and test faster. Right. That's the challenge in the context of quality engineering. Right. Code faster happening already, and we are catching up. We just need to figure it out. So I think that learn fast, upskill fast, and think critically, very important. Okay, and that would help us to support the test faster and ship responsibly. Like, that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah, got it. Thank you. Yes, and I think you can pivot that to many areas as well.
Yep.
I think those three
Yep.
points also can relate to different roles as well.
Yep.
This has been such a thoughtful conversation. We talked about accountability, system design, and trust within the QA and AI world. Where can our listeners connect with you or follow your work?
So I have a couple of places. Number one, it's I'm doing this first. I'm doing a daily podcast. It's only 5 minutes a day, okay, and it's on daily.testingeducation.org. Right. So every day there's a 5 minutes podcast that it talks about testing in AI. Right. And that's a one place. And then I'm building also this software e-learning platform. I call it Steps, a software testing e-learning portal. Okay, and that basically designed to have new people come in the field, or intermediate professionals who want to upskill and keep them up to date and transforming into the new era of software testing. So that's it at the URL called Shade of Hue, Shade of Hue, HUE.com. And I've been launching this for enterprises, but I haven't launched it publicly yet. But that's that way you can find some information. And then, I'm actually I'll on LinkedIn, so you find me there, on LinkedIn, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again, Hung, for joining us. This was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. Thank you, Flavia, for having me. Take care.
And to our audience, thank you for tuning into a new episode of Byte Happens. We have more coming up for season 2. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. And until then, remember, Byte Happens.